Welcome to episode number 291, where I'm speaking with Dr. Sujatha Kekada about the Ayurvedic perspective on cancer. We talk about what causes cancer to form in the body, the Ayurvedic view on cancer, how Ayurveda treats cancer, the types of cancer according to Ayurveda, and how we can prevent this disease from forming in the body. So please stay tuned. Hi there, I'm your host Colette, and on this podcast I will be sharing the teachings of Ayurveda, yoga, and holistic health practices. Now, if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend checking out the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. Thanks for listening, and now here's a new episode. So before we get into today's episode, I actually have some great news, and a lot has happened since the recording of this episode with Dr. Sujatha just a couple of weeks ago. We were discussing at the start of this episode about how it's been almost a decade since I worked with Dr. Sujatha in Bali from 2014 to 2015. And ever since, we have been talking about doing a retreat together, and finally the stars are aligning and we're planning a 7-day Ayurveda rejuvenation retreat for this December 2023. So please check out the link in the show notes or visit my website elementshealingandwellbeing.com and go to the events tab to find out all about this 7-day rejuvenation retreat on the islands of the gods, Bali. You'll be entering into a healing cocoon and have a tailored retreat just for you to bring your body and mind back into balance and to rejuvenate your spirit. So please check it out, and I hope you can join us in December in Bali. Okay, let's get to today's episode. Hello, and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. Today, I'm very happy to welcome back Dr. Sujatha Kekada, who is head physician and co-founder of AmrtaSiddhi Ayurvedic Clinic in Ubud, Bali. She is a certified Ayurvedic doctor, and Dr. Sujatha's profound understanding of Ayurvedic medicine and her deep love for plants is really the basis for her exceptional ability to diagnose the root causes of disease and to find effective remedies. And I witnessed this when I was working with Dr. Sujatha in Bali at the Ayurvedic Clinic, AmrtaSiddhi, way back now, Dr. Sujatha, in 2015, almost a decade ago. How are you, Dr. Sujatha? It's great to have you back on the podcast.
I'm very well, Colette. Thank you for having me again and creating this opportunity to share knowledge and make this as a step forward to help people. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and a great pleasure to put this amazing wisdom of Ayurveda out into the world. And today we're going to discuss the Ayurvedic perspective on cancer, and this awful disease is the second leading cause of mortality after cardiovascular disease, according to the World Cancer Research Fund. And it's the leading cause of death in over 50 countries. And I think everybody's affected in some way by this disease, knowing somebody in the family or friends. It's really a disease that's taken a huge hold on society. So I'd love to discuss the Ayurvedic perspective on cancer. And I think, Dr. Sujatha, would be great to start with, what is cancer?
Yes, you're very right. And nowadays, more and more, I also hear about a lot of people having cancer, including like distant relatives and families. These things, it's increasing in India too. I was very surprised last time I was in India a year ago, and I heard so many of my friends, family members, this is becoming one of the biggest, obvious and most seen cause of death. I was surprised that where all of our health has reached, and I think there's a big contribution from modern way of living contributing to it. So we'll talk about that a bit more later. So in the area of the prevention. So to define cancer, in Ayurveda, cancer is called arbuda, which basically means some mass or growth which is abnormal and not beneficial for the body's physiology. In a medical way of understanding cancer, cancer is actually defined as a group of disease. It's not like one disease. There's a multiple disease where it's significant with abnormal growth of cells, with the ability for those abnormal cells to move from one place to another place. Basically, they invade into another area. They might start abnormal growth in one tissue, one form of cells, and they can move to another part of the body and disturb the physiology or disturb the cellular function of another part of the body. So basically, that's cancer. It's a group of disease where there is an abnormal growth of cells.
And so what are the conditions in the body that could cause cancer to grow? Because we all have these malignant cells, right? We all have these malignant cells produced every day. And normally a healthy body and the body's immune system will fight these malignant cells. But I guess in the case of someone with cancer, the body doesn't destroy these malignant cells, and then they grow and they start to evade. So what are the conditions in the body that could cause these malignant cells to grow?
There's a concept, what you said, Colette, that, we all have cancer cells. That means it's basically an abnormal cell formation time to time, like in a production unit. Like if you take any factory manufacturing, there are some defective things and that's being checked out or disposed, right? So same way when body is producing cells, so sometimes there is a defective cells and there is a mechanism in our body which we call immune system, which is a checking system, which makes sure that the healthy cells are coming to life and they do the function, and the unhealthy cells are going to be eliminated and destroyed. So in cancer, these cells don't get checked, don't get destroyed or eliminated. Rather, they get into a full growth in an abnormal way and conquer certain part of the tissues and start to grow there. And then they take all the attention of your nutrition, your blood vessels, and all those things. So it basically starves the healthy cells. So it's basically your body is getting invaded by something else against its physiology, against its existence. It's like a monster taking over an area. So Ayurveda says cancer, the cause of the cancer is basically the first answer Ayurveda says is it's ama. Ama creates cancer. And ama in the physical level, ama in the mind level, both working together manifest cancer. And the samprapti, the manifestation of cancer, is also Ayurveda talks. It's a bit different than how all the other diseases get manifested. So ama is the one of the utmost cause for cancer. And I believe the listeners know what's ama. If not, I'm just going to briefly tell what ama is. Ama is something unprocessed, undigested food or unprocessed emotions, life experiences, sensory inputs, which is not processed and assimilated and understood, which can linger as stress, worry, fear, anger, frustration in the mind level and the physical level. It could look like a slur, mucousy, sticky substances just lingering and floating in your blood and stuck around your cells or inside the cells. Basically, these ingredients, they don't have any purpose. They're neither a full form nutrition nor it is toxins, which is not being eliminated by your system in the form of feces or urine or in the form of sweat. So they just lingers there wanting to be transformed into a nutrition or wanting to be broken down into waste so body can eliminate. When that doesn't happen in the right time in the right speed, it's going to irritate the cells and manifest disease. And one of the regular cause in a modern way or Western medical system for the cancer is irritants, toxins, pollution, various forms of toxins from nicotine or toxic chemicals in the environment, pesticides, bad things in the food that we consume. So basically your cells are irritated, and ama, when it is inside your cells or around your cells, it has no function. Basically its presence itself irritates. And when we know something which irritates in a cellular level, or just at least in our day-to-day basis, if your skin is irritated by any external thing, it creates redness and inflammation. So then it begins the inflammation. From the inflammation, change in the production of the cells or change in the DNA of the cells takes place, and the abnormal cells start to take birth. And these abnormal cells don't know what to do with the physiology to sustain life and well-being. Hence, they just conquer the part of the body or the organ, and organ fails to do its function. And consequently, it's leading to the failure of the functioning of other different tissues or organs, and ends up in death.
And as you said, it starts from a deranged metabolism, right?
Yes.
And digestive fire that's not working correctly, creating the ama or toxins. And thank you for explaining that. And then this ama finds its pathway throughout the body, and then it manifests differently for everybody, depending on whether there's genetic weaknesses or tissue weakness or wherever, but it will manifest in an area of the body that's where the ama collects and maybe the tissue is weak, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And then with cancer, we talked before about the 6 stages of disease in Ayurveda, samprapti, the progression of disease. However, with cancer, it can be different in that you may not find severe symptoms. You may have indigestion, you may have elimination problems, but you may not feel severe symptoms until the 5th stage. Is that correct?
Yes, because in any other manifestation of disease, which we don't call as cancer, so there is different symptoms start to happen in the different stages of pathogenesis. But with cancer, we will not know a group of symptoms which indicates, if you see these symptoms, maybe if you don't check it or you don't take action to reverse that, you will end up in a cancer. No, it's a very sudden onset. If the cancer is manifested, diagnosed, so I want to talk a little bit about when Ayurveda sees a condition as a cancer. There need to be a growth of some level, like a tumor. And Ayurveda describes there are basically 6 different kinds of cancer, general group. So particularly called different dosha predominant, vata, pitta, kapha cancer, like any abnormal growth. Other than these 3 areas of your body, which is your blood, and it's your muscle tissue, and it's your adipose tissue. So basically 6 kind of cancers are, or arbuda in Ayurveda, are vataja arbuda, pittaja arbuda, kaphaja arbuda, raktaja arbuda, which is blood related, mamsaja, which is related to muscle. And I want to talk a little bit about, when we talk in Ayurveda, the dhatu, mamsa, we say, for a little understanding, mamsa is muscle tissue, something which anoints your skeletal system, which creates a shape and stuff. But the muscles are also making your heart, your lungs, your intestines, all the organs. Basically, all the organs and connective tissue comes under the group of mamsa dhatu. Mamsa dhatu is a primordial, you can say, stem cell, which manifests in different forms. So when you talk about mamsa dhatu related cancer, it's cancer happening any part of your body tissues or organ. And then there is a blood related cancer separately. And then we have the adipose related tissue cancer called meda arbuda. That means which happens only in the fat tissue of the body. So generally it covers the different kinds of cancer that Western world talks about. And then we have the vata, pitta, kapha, which is cancer not particularly happening in the organs or anything. It could be the cancer happening in the bone, the cancer happening in the brain tissue, or cancer just isolated, not directly related to happening in the muscles or anything, like something which looks like a cystic. These are the different way of understanding the cancer. So basically, let's say a person had an unhealthy lifestyle, a lot of stress, these ama factories just moving around, but it did not manifest into any other diseases. But suddenly, it's interesting thing. I read in explanation in a book by Dr. Robert Subodh, he describes manifestation of cancer is something, he calls it as a death of the ego of the person. It's like a helplessness. It's like when you feel helpless and you're no more able to sustain your identity, who you are, your idea of life, like a crash of paradigm, and there's a complete helplessness. And that's when, if you had an imbalance of dosha or ama being floating around in your body, and that's a sudden onset or cause of manifestation of cancer. Basically, death of ego, because ego gives the identity. Ego tells what to do and what not to do, depending on the consciousness of the person. So our cell has a consciousness, and that cell functions in a particular way to sustain health. And we do a lot of things to go against this original consciousness of the tissue or the cells. And when a person's life, he experienced this complete hopelessness, and his ego cannot exist and sustain, that leads into the manifestation of a cancer suddenly. So I've seen in a lot of my patients, like there is some degree of traumatic experience might have happened. It usually takes 3 years before the person gets diagnosed with the cancer. Something really strong happened, which they could not sustain, could not get help or deal with it or process it, and they completely get blown by that. And then that leads into cancer, provided that there is a lot of imbalance is being going on, ama is being accumulated, and then boom. So it's just a little ignition of spark of fire on a fuel, and cancer manifests.
Wow, that's a very interesting concept. Yeah, please continue.
And treating cancer also means you need to work on person's psychology, spirituality, and then, of course, the physical body. So Ayurveda takes these 3 areas to consideration to treat cancer, because it's not only just giving immune building things or antioxidants or anti-carcinogenic herbs or medications and stuff, but it's also working on whole personality, perception, empowering the person, strengthening their psyche. All those things works together in treating cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. It just has to be really a holistic approach. As you know, Ayurveda says it's not just about the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, as you said. And can you give us examples? It was wonderful that you broke down the types of cancer: Vataja, Pittaja, Kaphaja, in the blood, Rakta, Mamsa, and then in Meda, the adipose tissue. So in the blood, for example, with Rakta, would that be something like leukemia?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And with Mamsa, it would be a tumor, would it? Or
cancerous uterine fibroid, or squamous cell cancer or basal cell cancer.
Okay. And in Meda, in the fat tissue?
The lipoma usually we have got, and that lipoma getting further. Lipoma is not a malignant cancer. So lipoma in an advanced stage, when it gets infected or proliferation of other cancerous tissue goes into the lipoma, then it's a full-blown cancer, like a metastasis happening.
And then you mentioned bone earlier, would Vata, because of the relationship of Vata and bone tissue, so Ashti, more in the bone. And then for Pitta, would that be a correlation with the blood too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Kapha?
Kapha can be in the Meda or in the fibroids. All those things can be example of the Mamsa, and then the Meda. Organs
of tissue.
Or tissue.
Okay.
So generally, you ask me a question, what's the line of treatment? The general treatment adapted in cancer is there is a shodhana need to happen. Panchakarma is the treatment. I'm not talking about the different treatments used in Panchakarma like Abhyanga, Shirodhara, all these things which are nowadays promoted as Panchakarma, but I'm talking about the real purification Panchakarma, where you do the Snehana, Shodhana, and then some sarjana and rasayana, like preparing the body, then removing the excessive dosha, ama from the tissue, and then making the body strong. So there will be
Yes.
involvement of emesis if there is a mamsa, meda, and kapha involved cancer. And virechana is used if there is a pitta-related cancer. And also in both pitta and vata-related, bloodletting is recommended. So to treat the blood by eliminating toxic or impure blood through leech therapy or venesection, needling, cupping, all those things. In Vata, they use bitter oils to oleate the person, and also not so invasive shodhana is done because Vata is anyway gentle, and in the state of cancer, they're much more fragile. So you don't do any extreme shodhana or purification therapy or cleansing therapies of the panchakarma. You do it very gentle way.
Right, because Vata really needs some rejuvenation as well.
Exactly.
Okay, I'd love to break this down a little bit, Dr. Sujatha, because I do think, as you just mentioned a moment ago, I heard of someone going on a 3-day panchakarma the other day, and I'm like, well, that can't be a panchakarma. They must just be offering panchakarma therapies in that Shirodhara or Abhyanga or so on. I'd love for you to, particularly what you do there at AmrtaSiddhi, just to detail a little bit more for people what a panchakarma actually means, because I think it's getting lost with some of the promotions of panchakarmas that are very short and they're not actually panchakarmas.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's when in Kerala, when Ayurveda became tourism, or the Kerala tourism started to promote Ayurveda, they started to call the therapies used in panchakarmas as itself panchakarma.
Yeah.
So and people who do not know much about Ayurveda or used Ayurveda as a primary lifestyle method or healing method, though they just think, okay, I go to a place for a day and I receive different combination of Ayurvedic treatments to relax or, get massaged, poured oil and head massage with a lot of oil and poured oil on the forehead. They call that's panchakarma. No, that is not panchakarma. That's just you receiving some of the treatments used in panchakarma to prepare the body for the purification techniques. Pancha means 5, karma means action. So this is a 5 different purification action to remove the excessive dosa, remove the ama out of the body, which is being the cause of imbalance or a cause of onset of disease in one person. Also, this technique can be used to prevent disease. So like before you manifest into a disease, we always know, okay, something is not right. I don't have the full energy. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I gained some weight, my mind is foggy. When you feel all those things, it's all the early indication. It tells that there's a hindrance. Your body is not working that well. It's also similar to like if you have a nice machine and when you serviced it, it runs smooth and the right driving person feels great about it. But when you know that something is rusty, the oil needs to change, some parts are not working, you can still function, but it is not smooth and elegant as it is. So when we reach similar feeling or sensation in our body, that indicates that something ama is being produced in your body or some doshas are out of balance. If I ignore that, then we can get sick. So Ayurveda really upholds the intention to prevent. So panchakarma can be used to prevent. If you know that you're overstretching your body, you're abusing your body to survive or do extra work, then you could do to prevent and bring the vitality back. If that's not, but any manifested disease, if you have a stronger mind and your body is strong, a Ayurvedic physician would take the root of panchakarma to remove this excessive dosha. So it will involve preparation of your body with oleation. The external oleation is done through what people think is in panchakarma, the abhyanga treatment, shirodhara treatment, patra potali treatment, svedana treatment, all this treatment. And then you drink also particular kind of fat, either ghee or sesame oil or sometimes even animal fat to lubricate the body. And once the exact amount of lubrication is being achieved, then you will be steamed, and then you will get certain group of medicine which will either work on making you vomit. This will be done in case if somebody has excessive kapha and the disease is coming from excessive kapha. And you do something called purgation. Basically, you take a certain group of medicine which work on bringing all the toxin from the downward from your small intestine through the anus. And then the third one you do to treat any vata imbalance, or by the time a disease is manifested through kapha or pitta and it becomes chronic, there is an obvious presence of aggravated vata. And then you do bastis, which is different forms of enema to work on the removing, balancing the excessive vata. And then we have two other techniques we call Rakta Mokshana, which is blood letting, which is working directly on any health issues coming from imbalance or toxicity buildup in blood. And then we have the fifth one is called Nasya, which is basically putting medicine through your nostrils, like a few drops of herbal juices or oils or ghee, sometimes even powders, through the nose to work on anything to do with your nervous system and your senses, diseases present in your brain, your nervous system, sensory organ impairment, and disease of the senses. So this is basically the Panchakarma, and preparation, purification, and then building up. So once you purify, toxins are gone, then you need to re-establish nourishment back in your cells so they can function normally. And then whatever the disease situation you had in the body comes back to normalcy, and health and well-being and joy and happiness a person can experience. Basically, Panchakarma is recreating the environment for the body so that it can heal and repair and come back to stability itself. So that's basically the function of Panchakarma. And there are different medications, rasayanas, preparations are used to support the tissue healing and organ functioning.
So Rasayana being rejuvenation given after the cleansing, the purification process.
Absolutely.
The process. Yeah. Great. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Well, so that's one of the main treatments in Ayurveda for cancer, Panchakarma being wonderful. And I'd love to talk about the prevention now. And you talked about that Panchakarma can be used for prevention also. And, you know, this is the Ayurvedic guidelines for our life is to prevent disease manifestation. And especially with cancer, as we mentioned earlier, that we don't see the major symptoms or know something is severely wrong until maybe the fifth stage, until it has really manifested and taken hold in the body. So let's talk about some ways that we can prevent disease, any disease, and in particular cancer, from manifesting in the body, please.
Anything that the listeners learn to know how to prevent ama formation can greatly help in preventing cancer. If your body can be free from ama, that's the one thing in a physical level. And ama forms if you're eating wrong food, eating wrong quantity of food, when your Agni is not good, all those things. Anything which you consume, which is away from the nature, like a processed food, or eating food which is frozen for a while, and you, for the convenience, you heat it in a microwave and heat. All these things can contribute to ama. So do anything to prevent ama. That's first step.
So making sure that your digestion is working efficiently. Right.
Yes.
Your digestive is working efficiently. Regular cleansing is another one as well. And yeah, so I just want to make sure people understand, what do you mean by ama formation? What those are things you can implement, making sure that your digestion is working efficiently, that there's not excessive gas, bloating, and also looking at your bowel movements. If there's constipation, if there's diarrhea, if there's lots of loose stool, these are all signs that there's burping, hiccups on a regular basis, all signs that your digestion is working efficiently.
There is some clear-cut signs of ama. If you're experiencing things like some of the symptoms you mentioned, the constant bloating, constipation, not eliminating every day, not properly eliminating, thick coating on your tongue, your body feels heavy and lethargic. There's a beautiful description Ayurveda gives is you constantly feel bit as if your body is covered with wet leather. There is such a sluggishness, heaviness, and discomfort. Foggy brain, water retention, like not just a 1 day water retention because you stood a long duration or you flew for 12 hours in the airplane. It just, you see that you're puffy, you wake up, you all the time, your fingers are swollen, your legs are swollen, you can't see your ankle, your face is swollen. If you experiencing this for a long period of time, this indicates ama. So then removal of ama is any sort of detox can help, and the panchakarma greatly helps because panchakarma works on the cellular level. So one, preventing the ama, and keeping your hormones balanced, like your relationship to your stress hormones and the other nourishing hormones like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, having a good balance. Because if you take, there's two groups of hormones in your body, one is yin and one is yang. So yang is the stress hormones, which is our adrenals, cortisol, and DHEA. And then we have got the yang yin hormones, which is nourishing, building, reproduction, joy, happiness hormones, which is our oxytocin, estrogen, progesterone, all those things. So if you could see, because hormones reflects our emotional state too, because what your body experiences, what goes on your mind is through hormones. If you're happy and excited, you have a lot of oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, all those things. So that's what you physiologically, your cells feels it through. That's what you emotionally feel. So if we could reduce the stress level, take care of ourselves, do stress reducing activities like going for nice walks, spending time with your family, regular exercise, regular bedtime, and good nutrition. These things can greatly help to reduce stress, and also having a spiritual openness and practicing something towards your spiritual goal, like we call sadhana, because spirituality is not only just saying, okay, I believe in God or I'm part of that, but in order to experience spiritual connection, there should be some sadhana or practice which could be a routine practice of yoga, meditation, pranayama, prayers, some actions that's meaningful in a spiritual way that allows you to connect to others and nature. That's something beyond what a material thing can give you. So all those things can help in preventing cancer. Basically, overall well-being of your mind, body, anything that you do without harming it, without being ignorant, or in Ayurveda and yoga, there's a word used called prajnaparada. If you prevent from doing mistakes consciously, because a lot of the time we know these things should not be done, or I should not be doing so frequently, we still end up doing. And this prajnaparada, consciously doing mistake in accumulated form, can be a contribution for cancer.
Absolutely. And especially in modern life, like misuse of the senses, right? Overexerting our senses because there's so much available all the time now to feed our senses, and we have to deliberately shut down every so often. And that then brings in the conversation about the living in tune with the circadian rhythms. At a certain point in the evening, you have to shut down the senses so that you can get a good night's sleep, so that you can detox and rejuvenate the body. And on that note, actually, I just listened to a study the other day about sleep, and it was really interesting. A recent study said that 4 hours of sleep per night can create immune deficiency, and 70% reduction in anti-cancer immunity cells, which fight the cancer cells, which are, produced naturally in our bodies. So and unfortunately they said just one night of 4 hours of sleep can really have a negative effect on our immune system, and a 70% reduction in these anti-cancer immunity cells, these cells that fight the malignant cells that we talked about at the start of this conversation. So
I want to say something here, Colette, to emphasize on that. It's also the time we sleep too, because the
Yes.
time of this, like the immune system which fights against the cancer cells or kills them or eliminates them, this I call a repair work, like a checking work that happens when we sleep between, let's say, 10:30 to 2 o'clock. So that's we call pitta time. And we know, as we know, pittas are the organizers, transformers, forming energy. And when we sleep, that's what happens in the night. So all those things need to be organized inside for the body and the senses to do its function and enjoy life when we wake up. And we need to give that time to switching off our senses and our body and our muscles and our nervous system, so these functions can happen. So sometimes people think, okay, 8 hours of sleep, I'll get the 8 hours of sleep from 2 o'clock until 10 o'clock. But that window where these actual cleaners come in, it's only going to happen more efficiently at that time. Later on, you might rest and recover, but the window is lost to do this very significant function in the body. So I really want people to pay attention to the time of sleeping, which need to be, let's say, latest like 11 to 2 o'clock. You must be sleeping really, be in this deep sleep mode.
Yeah.
And that's where the repair happens.
100%. Thank you for mentioning that. It is so important that, you get that pitta, the sleep in that pitta time, as you said, and that there's a wind down happening before that, so that your nervous system can wind down, so your brain isn't overactive. That's what a lot, I hear a lot of yogis saying that, like, I can't get to sleep. My brain is like overactive and intense because you're either working or scrolling social media or just your senses watching a movie that was very stimulating. So we really need to be aware of this. And this is all for a better life, right? In the end of the day, it's all doing all these practices and following these Ayurvedic principles will give you a life that's happy, healthy, with clarity, with energy, that's fulfilling. So it's all going to lead to the betterment of you. It just takes a little bit of discipline and maybe a little bit of professional guidance from an Ayurvedic professional, but that putting these practices in place will ensure a healthy body and mind and longevity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So before we finish up here, is there anything else that you wanted to cover?
I think a simple beginning could be for people who are thinking there, how I can take care of myself healthy and, prevent from accumulation of ama, stress and process emotions and stuff. I think, if they can focus on following the dinacharya, the daily routine, I think that could be a great foundation to establish a good connection, health and connection to oneself. Because once you're connected, in tune with yourself, body is made to tell you, give you insights of what it needs to stay healthy. Because a lot of the time we are not connected to ourselves. So we just try to do things what other people tell us or read in a magazine, because we just want to rely on those things. Because health is within ourselves. So we just need to support and stay connected. That's what I would like to add here.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. These dinacharya, these self-care practices, again, wonderful guidelines, simplistic guidelines from Ayurveda that also not only will help us be healthy and set our lives up in a healthy way, but prevent decision fatigue. You don't have to think every day of what you have to do. It'll already be in place. It'll be a great framework for your life. So absolutely. That's a wonderful tip there. Dr. Sujatha, before we finish up, can you tell people where they can find out more about you? AmrtaSiddhi Ayurvedic Clinic, they can go there and have a panchakarma in a beautiful healing cocoon in Ubud, Bali. So if you could share where they could find out more information, anything else you want to share with us?
I'm available for Zoom sessions, so that you can contact my office at www.amrtasiddhi.com. You can reach us through Instagram account with the same name, AmrtaSiddhi. It's a clinic to help people heal naturally and educate and empower them. So that's the vision, the goal of AmrtaSiddhi, to make health simple and empower to take care of their own health, or find a solution holistically to work towards their health if they are being imbalanced and going through a health issue. So if anybody needs help, we are here in Bali to support you and be part of your healing journey.
I will put all those links in the show notes. Dr. Sujatha, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for sharing this wisdom today. It's so great to get this information out there and to give people some tips as well on how to prevent this awful disease from forming in the first place. So thank you. I appreciate.
Thank you, Colette. Thank you for bringing these curious questions and, bringing awareness to people. Thank you too.
Absolutely. We'll have you back again soon, hopefully. Until next time, take good care of yourself, Dr. Sujatha.
Thank you, Colette. Bye-bye. Bye, listeners.
Bye for now. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Dr. Sujatha. Some amazing information there from Ayurveda, great insights and tips also. Now, as Dr. Sujatha just mentioned about starting with your Dinacharya, if you need support around learning how to implement the Dinacharya, check out my online, self-paced Daily Habits for Holistic Health program. This is set up to help you with implementing the Dinacharya and also help you with understanding about how to become your own healer. It's education on the principle of opposites, and also talking about the mental gunas and managing your stress. So this is all great foundational information from Ayurveda. I will put that link in the show notes. And also, if you're interested in cleansing and eliminating that ama from your body, well, I offer an at-home digestive reset cleanse to help eliminate that buildup of ama in the body. And I'll put that link in the show notes, or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and click on the programs tab to find all the information about my private digestive reset cleanse, where you can choose your own dates. It comes with a 90-minute consultation, so I can tailor the cleanse, the recipes, the yoga, the mindfulness, and everything else to you and your lifestyle. If you think that this episode will be helpful to family or friends, please share it with them so we can spread this wonderful wisdom of Ayurveda. And if you haven't already subscribed or followed the podcast, please do so, and the new episodes will automatically download for you. If you would like to rate and review the podcast, I would really appreciate that. And you can find me on social media under Elements Healing and Wellbeing on Facebook, and on Instagram under the new page, Elements of Ayurveda Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.